So context for this tier list is a tier list with ranked in mind. So this is not going to be taking into account like heroes that are perfectly played with team play and all that stuff, right? This is ranked, meaning solo/duo heroes that are going to be probably like really good in the current meta and good for climbing. Now, obviously, I have the perspective of a high ranked player. I mean, I'm Phantom 3 right now, which is high rank right now. Your experience may differ in your games, and in lower brackets there are certain heroes that are much stronger than in higher brackets, so obviously take this with a grain of salt. It's just a tier list. It's not that serious, and it's just my opinion, and you might think some of the things I say are crazy, and that's okay. As far as the tiers, I think almost every hero is basically viable. So like the worst tier is C tier, situational, and the best tier, overpowered, are heroes that I think just need to be nerfed like pretty quickly. I'm not going to go into detail for every hero. I'll try to give like a TLDR of every hero and give like a short explanation of why I think they are at the tier that they are, but I'm not going to go into a lot of detail just because I don't feel like doing that. And I don't think there's a ton of point. Okay, so starting with Abrams. Abrams, very tanky hero, great CC, great mid-boss. So having good mid-boss is something that matters a lot, especially in higher rank games, because if you have good mid-boss contests, it makes winning the game so much easier. Abrams' only weak point really is his lane's not that good, in my opinion, and he also kind of can struggle against like some flyers until he gets Phantom Strike. But overall, I think he's extremely solid, meta-defining for sure. Apollo, so I think Apollo in most situations, I would put him in viable. I think he does struggle a bit. I think he's strong in the right hands, but I think that there are very few players that can play Apollo well enough to the point where I would put him in A or S tier. So I'm putting him in viable. I also think the fact they removed those super long stun from his 2 overall made him harder to play and not as strong. Bebop, I think Bebop is good. I think for most situations, I would put Bebop in A tier, strong pick. I think he's a strong hero. He doesn't really feel weak to me. There's a lot of different viable builds, especially at lower elos. The ult build is always going to be like just really scary for a lot of objectives. Hook has a lot of pick potential, which is really important in ranked as people are playing a bit more seriously. So I think he's solid. And I think with Veilwalker right now, he can just kind of roam around the map and kill everyone. Billy, I think, is S+ tier. So Billy is extremely meta defining. I think he's overpowered. I think he probably needs to be nerfed. Now, I will say that Billy is not, out of the S+ tier heroes, Billy is not the hero with the most agency, meaning it can be a little hard to carry your entire team on Billy. However, you're never upset to have a Billy on your team. Every time you have a Billy on your team, I think your chances of winning are like exponentially increased, especially if the Billy is good. The chain is like insane for any like team fight. Like chain is super good. Bash down for some reason cancels like every ability in the game. Like the amount of times I've been bashed down out of something is ridiculous. So for that reason, for all, and Rising Ram still does an insane amount of damage. Really, once again, Billy has kind of the Abrams problem where his lane is not that strong, but once he gets to the mid game and especially the late game, he feels crazy with Scourge, Colossus, all these things, just like really, really good at fights. Calico. I think Calico is extremely strong right now. I'm putting her in S tier. I think that, you know, going Trophy Collector and getting a lot of kills can be really a really solid way of just like getting a lead exponentially. I think that all of her abilities are strong. Yes, she doesn't one-shot people the way that she used to, but she still like creates a ton of pressure and a ton of damage. And on top of that, one thing that a lot of people forget about Calico is how strong her mid-boss potential is. Not only does her ultimate, you know, do really well in the pit, but the thing is that her gloom bombs reduce melee resistance, which means that you guys can like insta-kill mid. So one thing, if you're playing Calico and you're doing mid-boss and you have 2 points in gloom bomb, make sure you tell your entire team to punch. Everyone needs to punch and mid-boss will get melted. So Celeste is interesting because I don't really see a ton of people play Celeste effectively, but I think that she's got a ton of potential. The problem is that they keep buffing her ultimate, which is not really her problem, but now the ultimate is actually like insanely strong. So I'm going to put Celeste in strong picks. I think she has potential for S tier, but she's not easy to play. So I'm going to say she's a strong pick. The biggest advantage of Celeste is I think she has a lot of individual agency, similarly to Calico. She can create a lot of plays. Her ultimate can be absolutely crazy for mid-boss and Rift and any team fight. It's insane. Her lane is kind of weak into most matchups unless you're really good, and she requires a very good understanding of source movement in order to play her well. So putting her a strong pick, if you're really good at her, she could be S tier. Doorman is, okay, so Doorman is S+ tier overpowered. However, I'm hesitant to put Doorman in S+ tier overpowered because I don't think that Doorman is the best hero to climb unless you're really good at him. So I think for almost, I'm going to put him in S+ tier overpowered, but for almost everyone watching this list, he's not going to be that. So he's kind of like, he's potential man, but I'm putting him in S+ tier because this is my tier list and this is from my perspective, and playing against a good Doorman honestly feels almost impossible. But if you're watching this and you're like, oh man, I need to pick up Doorman, he's S+ tier, chances are you are not him on Doorman. And you need to be like, you need to be him. Also, I'm not talking about Kidnap Doorman. I don't even think Kidnap Doorman is that good. It's more so just a Doorman in general. Okay, Drifter. I actually think Drifter for climbing ranked right now is S+ tier. I think Drifter in ranked is like literally like Thanos. Every time I see Drifter in a game, he's like 15-2, and he's just one-shotting everyone. The build right now seems to be Spirit Drifter with Veil Walker and just like press 2, press 1, kill someone instantly. I think that Drifter is a kind of an elo potion, like really, really good to climb ranks and should probably be nerfed a little bit. I don't think he's as crazy conceptually as Doorman or Billy, but I think Drifter is like insane for sure, especially with like Veil Walker, Spirit Snatch. Like he's got so much burst potential with Rend, as well as the fact that it silences you, that he's so good at just like finding isolated targets and just killing them instantly. And the ult is obviously like crazy value in team fights. Okay, so Dynamo, I think Dynamo is just a good hero. So Dynamo, obviously his ultimate is like insanely strong, especially at lower ranks where people don't spread out as much and don't know how to interrupt it. His 2 is insane potential. His heal is good. All of his abilities are good. It's just that none of his abilities are really exceptional in my opinion. I think that he's just a solid hero. Like I think for most people, you're gonna be happy to have him. At the very, very highest level of play, I think that he could be a little worse. Like he could be B tier at the very highest level, but yeah. Stomp does too much in lane. Nah, Dynamo Stomp is not that big of a threat because you can just play on bridge. You can like, there's so many ways to dodge Dynamo Stomp in lane. Okay, so Graves is probably like the most controversial hero out of all of these. So Graves is a rank check in my opinion. So almost every Graves that I've seen in high rank doesn't really do anything. However, every time that I'm watching lower rank players, Graves looks like literally Thanos. So overall, I'm gonna put Graves in the viable tier. However, if you're below, in terms of new rank, if you're not in Oracle in the new ranks, if you're below Oracle, she's probably like S tier. She is quite good. It's just that she is quite abusable, I think. And at higher ranks, I just don't see her having a ton of impact. But overall, I think if you're like below Oracle, she's probably S tier. Graves is S tier for almost everyone. I'm giving you guys the info. As far as how do you counter Graves, Graves is a low mobility, squishy hero. Her skulls just get light meleeed, so you have to light melee them. And then other than that, her other abilities are only problematic in very specific situations. If you ever see a Graves out in the open, she is ready to be victimized. Great Talon. I think Great Talon is just good. I think a lot of people kind of stopped playing him, but to be honest, I really don't think he's bad at all. He still outputs a ton of damage. Yeah, the Mystic Shot combo with Tankbuster got nerfed, which hurts him a little bit, but I don't think it hurts him a crazy amount. He still stacks a lot of spirit. He still has a really good laning stage with the 2 points in flight, as well as the early gun spike. So I think he's just a strong pick. Okay, Haze. I'm going to put Haze in like viable tier maybe, or she could be C tier. I'm going to put her in viable tier for now. We'll see if we revisit later. Haze is just kind of like, she can work for sure. You can win with Haze. It's just not easy. If I see a Haze on my team, I know the game is going to be fucking hard. It's going to be a hard game. And can she work? Yes. Does she work most of the time? No. So overall, I'd say if you're a Haze player, you're definitely going to be better off playing other heroes. I think that she is worse than Apollo, worse than Graves, probably. She is extremely vulnerable. The only thing that's good about her that's left is like her solo kill potential is still quite good. But other than that, I think her carry potential is pretty mid. It can work though. I have won a game with the carry Haze, even in the highest ranks, but it's very hard. Holliday, I think, is really good. I'm going to put her in meta defining. I think that you're always happy to have a Holliday if you know what you're doing on Holliday. I also think that she's a high agency character for ranked, meaning that you can have a lot of impact on the game as Holliday. Yes, she falls off a little bit late game, but I've been going against some gun Hollidays recently, and gun Holliday still does a lot of damage. So I think Holliday players might not be building enough gun, because that is low-key pretty scary. I've been kind of demolished by some. So overall, she moves around the map really fast. She has a very strong lane, very strong mid game, outputs a lot of damage, has good utility and good pick potential. So I'm putting her in meta defining. She's also like incredibly hard to kill. Like killing a good Holliday is not easy. Infernus. I'm also going to put Infernus in meta defining. I think that Infernus is actually really slept on by the majority of the player base. I think this hero is really good right now. I think that both max flame dash, I mean, all of his max abilities are pretty solid, but he's got like a decent laning stage. Like once you get 1 point in afterburn, people can't really take extended trades against you, because like 1 point afterburn, they try to fight you, and all of a sudden, like, you know, they just start melting. Flame Dash is an incredible farming ability. It also makes you hard to kill, and his ultimate is insane for team fights. I think overall, like, he's got damage amp on his one still. Like, he feels like a really solid hero. And I think that Infernus is also a high agency hero because he's really good at taking 1v1s in the side lane. So, like, if you just get a side lane and you start taking 1v1s with him, I think that you can win a lot of them, especially when people don't expect the amount of damage that you're going to be dealing. And I think that that's incredibly valuable in ranked. So, I think that overall, I would put him in meta defining. Okay, Ivy is also going to be a similar idea to Infernus. I'm putting her in meta defining. I think some people might argue that she's S+ tier overpowered. That can be true, especially in organized play. And if you watch Wander play her, he does make her look S+ tier overpowered. She's really, really strong. Her ultimate you should always use on teammates, and it gives damage amp to both of you as well as a shield, and it allows you to traverse the map extremely quickly. So in order for Ivy to be good, you have to know macro. That's really the biggest thing. She also has an invincibility frame, like an iframe on her 3 stone form, which not only blocks anything, you can dodge anything with it, but it also heals you. So you can dodge so many things and also get healed, which is really powerful. So she's pretty hard to shut down. The gun build feels strong, which is basically like capacitor into like whatever, right? Crippling, siphon, whatever you need. And her macro potential is insane. So I'm putting her in S tier. She could be S+ tier for sure, but I think for most people, she's going to be more like S tier. Kelvin is hard for me to place. I honestly think that as far as ranked goes, if you're trying to rank up, I would not play Kelvin. I'm putting him in B tier. I think Kelvin is extremely team dependent, and it's hard for Kelvin to have a lot of impact by himself. So I think for the purposes of playing solo and duo queue, I would not particularly prioritize Kelvin, and I think I'm going to put him in B tier viable. I think he's all right. I don't think he's a bad hero by any stretch of the imagination. However, he is not the hero that I would play in rank to climb. Okay, Geist. I'm putting Geist in meta defining. I think Geist is really strong, especially in the solo aspect. The thing that you guys will see in a lot of the S tier or S+ tier heroes is that if you want to have a lot of impact in your ranked games, playing heroes that are hard to shut down is really key, right? So if you look at the B tier hero, a lot of these heroes are a little bit easier to shut down, or they'll like fall off or things like that. But if you look at the S tier heroes, all of these heroes are incredibly difficult to kill, right? Ivy's got Stone Form and Flight. Geist has Life Swap as well as Life Drain. Abrams has Shoulder Charge, Siphon, his ult, etc. Calico can also dodge a bunch of things with ult. And if you look at the S+ tiers, I mean, Drifter is a hero that can be killed, so it's an exception, but both Billy and Doorman are also very hard to kill. So in general, having heroes that are hard to shut down fully is really important, and I think Geist is very hard to shut down fully. She's extremely tanky. If you want to kill her, you essentially have to kill her twice. So I think for most players, Geist is going to be S tier meta defining. Now I'm going to put Lash in the same tier with a similar idea except slightly different. So where Geist is a mostly immobile, like low mobility, extremely tanky, high damage output character that heals a lot, Lash is an extremely high mobility character that still has good damage output and, you know, really, really hard to shut down. With Gun Lash, it's really, really hard to shut down. There's like basically nothing you can do other than like, I mean, knockdown kind of works, but at the end of the day, it's incredibly hard to shut down. Now, the argument for Gun Lash to be S+ tier can definitely be made. Is he as strong as these characters? I don't think so. I don't think he's quite as strong as these characters, but he's incredibly strong. And definitely Lash, like if Lash got nerfed, I would not be surprised, and he would probably deserve it. At the end of the day, I think that Lash is also another high agency character. You have a lot of impact on the game, and your ultimate can be like massive for turning fights. You just need to bait your teammates a little bit, right? Like I was watching Super play yesterday, and honestly, like a lot of Lash players go in for their ults way too early. You want a lot of things to be used before you go in for your ult, unless you have Unstoppable and you see like a really good angle. But a lot of the time, it's better to ult a little bit later rather than ult too early, because then it's really easy to counter. Overall, Unstoppable is pretty mandatory in the current meta, but like Gun Lash does a great job of just buying Unstoppable because he doesn't really need to prioritize too many other items. You just go a couple gun items, then you go Siphon, Crippling, Unstoppable, something like that, and you know, you're basically good to go. McGinnis, S+ tier. The turrets are incredibly insane. Her heal gives 40% spirit resist with 1 AP. Her ultimate is still good. Like she basically, like her laning stage is insane. She has one of the best mid-boss setups in the entire game. Her turrets are just unkillable. I mean, I don't know. This hero is just like the fucking like MMR. Like if you want free MMR, just play McGinnis. Literally just play McGinnis if you want free MMR. I'm not kidding. This hero is just insane. Like, and the lower rank you are, the more broken she is. And she's already broken at high rank. She's already broken at high rank when people know how to deal with the turrets, because you can't even deal with them. So yeah. Mina, which is a hero. So I've been spamming Lash and Mina. I think Mina, honestly, I would consider putting an S tier, but I think that Mina is like a harder, easier to counter than Lash. I'm going to put her in A tier. I think that she's a very strong hero, but she does need like certain, she needs certain things to pop off. right? And those things don't always happen. And if you're playing against like slowing hex spam, it can be really hard to play the game, especially early as Mina. And she has like a lot of like matchups that aren't good. Like for example, if you pick Mina, right, and you're against McGinnis, it's like actually like a horrible, horrible matchup. Mina into Drifter, horrible matchup. Mina into Billy, not a great matchup, right? She's got a lot of bad matchups and a lot of the top heroes. Because like picking her into McGinnis turrets actually feels awful because you're just constantly just taking 1,000 damage from turrets. So overall, you know, I think that she's strong. I don't think that she's like S tier. I think if you're trying to climb though, I think the biggest thing about Mina for me and why she's one of the heroes that I'm trying to climb with is that she has incredibly high agency and she's also incredibly mobile, which I prioritize mobility a lot when ranking up because I understand that macro decisions are not going to be perfect for my team. And so being able to be in multiple places on the map is like really important. And Mina can do that very well. And she can push waves really aggressively a lot of the time because she has bats, which I think is super valuable. So, you know, A tier, S tier, I think she's somewhere in between. You know, if she's in A tier, she's definitely high A tier, but I don't order the tiers, to be clear. The tiers are not ordered, they're just alphabetical. Mirage, I'm putting in S tier, meta defining. I think that he is a great side laner, great at 1v1s, good laning stage, hard to shut down with double tornado. His ultimate allows him to, you know, have like good macro all the time. Even if your teammates are dropping waves left and right, you can kind of like make up for that as Mirage. So I think that, you know, Mirage is like S tier. Does Mirage need a nerf? Maybe. I honestly don't think Mirage is anywhere near as broken as he was before. From the games I've played, Mirage does not feel like S+ tier, but he feels like really good. Moe Krill is either S+ tier or S tier. I'm going to put Moe Krill on S tier for ranked specifically. As far as ranked goes, I think that previous Moe would not have ranked as highly, but ever since they made the burrow change, you have so much more uptime on burrow, and he actually feels really hard to shut down, and you can do a lot of damage on him, and you have great CC. So overall, like, I think that he's a strong meta character. The disarm is also really good into a lot of the other carries. So I do value having a Moe on my team quite a lot. And, you know, Lona's been winning a lot on him. So I think he's a very solid pick. Paige is staying in C tier. I think that Paige is probably arguably one of the worst heroes to climb with. You know, actually, I'm going to put Haze there as well. I'm going to put Haze back in C tier as well after realizing that they're kind of about the same. So both Paige and Haze, but we'll talk about Paige a little bit, is like Paige is a victim. She just gets jumped on. She gets killed. She has low agency, low control over the game. I think that if you're solo queue, picking Paige is the worst decision that you can make, in my opinion. If you're duo queue, it can work for sure. And Paige isn't like completely useless. Her lane is actually very strong. She actually has a very, very, very strong lane. So you can win lane reliably on Paige. But after that, in the mid game, like, sometimes you just get one shot by so many heroes that are good. Like, you're playing Paige into Lash, like, okay, you know, good luck, right? Playing Paige into a lot of the meta heroes, like you're playing into Drifter, into Calico, into Lash, like into a lot of these heroes, it's just like, it's just rough. So at the end of the day, you know, no matter what you build on Paige, you can do a ton of damage on Paige. You can do big shields, you can do big support, but you're always easy to kill. And I think that that's a huge problem that the hero has. Similar to what Graves does, except I think Graves actually offers more utility to the team than Paige does currently. So I think that she's slightly better. Now, Paradox, I think Paradox is good. I haven't seen Paradox really dominating lobbies, but I do think that she's quite good. I'm going to put her in strong picks. I think most of the time I'd rather have a Holliday, but for mid-boss, she has a ton of potential with the bomb. Now, the Echo Shard nerf did hurt the double bomb build for Paradox, but it's still playable. And obviously, max level swap is like huge in mid. But at the end of the day, like, I think that she's just solid. Like, her kit is good. Like, if you're a Paradox player, you should be happy right now. Like, she's definitely in a good spot. She's not broken. She's probably not going to get nerfed. I think that she's perfectly fine. Okay, so Pocket is S+ tier overpowered. I think that Pocket has, you know, you can max Barrage, you can max ult. Pocket Affliction is just like, it's just so hard to balance. And the thing about Pocket too is that Pocket is almost unkillable, right? So if you're playing Pocket, all you need to do, sit on side lanes. You can farm the entire jungle because they farm extremely, extremely fast. And then you just show up to fights, you use Affliction, Barrage does a ton of damage, and you just never die. And just via Affliction, like, you have so much impact, as well as the fact that you can constantly be pressuring walkers essentially for free because your cloak has very little downtime. So as long as you have the spell magic, or if they don't have slowing hexes or silence waves, you're just free. The only thing that harms Pocket is that Curse is becoming more and more meta by the day, which might become a problem for Pocket. So as Curse becomes more meta, we'll see if we see less Pocket, and that might bump them down to like S tier. But yeah, Pocket is just like really, really hard to kill. And even with curses, I mean, you know, if they get lucky, they can dodge it with Satchel, and we might see some, you know, cheat death and stuff like that. Rem. I think Rem is like good. So the thing about Rem is, I think for the purposes of solo and duo queue, I'm going to put Rem in like strong picks. I think that he has more agency than Kelvin, but he kind of offers like a similar thing. The reason why I say he has more agency than Kelvin is because I think Little Helpers gives a lot of macro potential that Kelvin doesn't have, which can help a lot in solo or duo queue when your teammates aren't managing waves properly. So I think that Little Helpers helps Rem a lot when it comes to the ranked potential. The healing is still crazy, and all of his abilities are pretty good, but obviously he is still primarily a healer, meaning that your damage output is limited to the items that you can use pretty much. So, you know, decays, alchemical fires, torment pulse, arctic blast, stuff like that. But the healing is incredibly valuable depending on the composition that you have. And now that you can swap characters, if you notice it's not a good Rem game and you're queuing Rem and you're like, okay, I don't have the front line to heal, you can swap off of him, which I think makes Rem also better to queue blindly a little bit. As far as one thing that's happening in the chat that I want to talk about as well with Rem is like, should you take your own centers with Little Helpers, right? And I think that this is a conversation where most people are wrong, because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with Rem taking your own centers if they haven't been taken. So if it's 9 minutes into the game and the double centers on your side are still alive, you should be taking them as Rem. You should not be leaving them for people to take them potentially 2 minutes down further. But obviously, if it's 8 minutes, you shouldn't take your double centers on spawn, and you should prioritize stealing enemy centers at first. But if your centers are not being taken, you can absolutely take them. Like it's much better for Rem to take the centers than it is for the centers to stay there for another minute or two. So you should always take the centers that are available if they haven't been taken right away. So 1 minute after spawn, I would say, like around 9:30, all centers are fair game in my opinion. And there's obviously the only thing that you have to do is make sure you kill the neutral in the camp. If you're taking your double centers, usually if you're stealing the enemy, it's totally fine. But if you're taking your own, you need to kill the neutral so that it actually respawns. Okay, so 7. I'm going to put 7 in viable. I think that 7. Okay, so once again, with 7 and with Graves, there's a little bit of a elo check. So if you're like below Oracle, 7 is probably like maybe S tier. But if you're like high Oracle in the current rank system, 7 just does not do much from what I've seen. I haven't really seen 1-7 have a single good game, to be honest. So 7 does not feel very strong right now at a high level. Now, if you're a lower rank, 7 is completely fine and you can keep playing 7. And 7 has literally never been bad at lower ranks, ever. Shiv, I think Shiv is just a strong pick. I don't think Shiv is crazy. I think Shiv is very like comp dependent. I haven't really seen any Shivs like popping off a lot on the new patch. So I think if you have the right composition, like for example, if you've got the combos of like Shiv Rem, it can be really good. So if you're duo and you're queuing something like Shiv Rem or even Shiv Kelvin or like basically something that gives Shiv a lot of sustain, it can be crazy. But barring that, I don't really think Shiv is all that right now. He does have some pop-off moments with his ultimate, refreshing and just killing everyone and being like, you're dead. But other than that, I would not say that Shiv is like a great hero for climbing. I actually like considered putting him in B tier viable, but I feel like people might call me crazy if I put him there. So I'm putting him in A tier because like he's still good. It's just that I think most of the time you'd rather be playing another hero. I think Silver is like super slept on. I think that she's still S tier. I think Silver is really, really strong. Yes, she got nerfed, etc. But I don't really think the nerfs mattered that much. The hero still has insane like 1v2, 1v3 potential, very high agency. She's a low cooldown hero, which means that if you're better than the average of the lobby, especially in solo or duo queue, you can roam around and you can fight a lot because your ultimate doesn't have a very high cooldown. And that's something that I value a lot. So I think that she's very strong. Okay, so Sinclair is now, so a lot of people have been asking, is Sinclair broken now that you can swap depending on the team composition? And that does make Sinclair better, I'm not gonna lie. You can look at the enemy team composition ahead of time, and most people don't swap, so you already have a pretty good idea of what's happening. At the end of the day, I think Sinclair definitely got buffed by that change, because now you can look, oh, wow, they have like, these heroes specifically, I'm gonna play Sinclair. And that definitely helps him. I do think that he's still very hard to play, and I think for most people, Sinclair is not the highest agency pick, okay? So this is purely from a perspective of how much can you do on Sinclair in ranked, and I'm going to say that it's a strong pick. Now, it's very comp dependent, okay? In some comps, like if you're playing against Dynamo, it's going to be like S tier, S plus tier. Like, Sinclair is just going to take over the lobby with Dynamo, potentially. And also, if you are a Sinclair one trick, it can be S tier or S plus tier as well, right? Like if you're Connor, or if you're, there's that Sinclair one trick in EU, I forget his name, but I saw him on Cosmetical stream the other day, who was just like, he was just like 17K at like 12 minutes. If you're like a one trick on Sinclair, you can kind of own. Other than that, I think he's just good, but I wouldn't play Sinclair just for the purpose of climbing unless you're kind of like a one trick at Sinclair or like you specialize in Sinclair. I don't think it's worth learning otherwise. Venator is interesting. So I think for the purposes of ranked, I think the other carries are stronger than Venator, but I think he's always good. So I'm hesitating whether to put him S tier or A tier. I don't think Venator has as much impact as the other S+ tier characters in ranked for, you know, like, I guess, carry potential and the amount of impact you can have on the game. I'd usually rather have other heroes. So my reasoning on this is I think that if you look at the S tier heroes, I think a lot of these heroes have more control over the game, but I do think that Venator is not that far off. So I'm going to put him in S tier. I think that that's where he belongs. Like I'm never upset having a Venator on my team. I'm never going to be like, oh man, I have a Venator, it's not good. Venator is always going to be good. The anti-heal itself already applies a lot of utility, and if you're good at Venator, you can absolutely, you know, own some of the heroes that are really good at the game, really good right now in the meta. So I think he's solid. Victor is interesting because I've seen Victor do really well, and I've seen Victor do really bad. Now, there's multiple playstyles of Victor. There's one playstyle of Victor where basically you just farm for the first 20 minutes of the game, and then you get late game, and you just become like unkillable demon of doom. And that does seem to be the playstyle that wins the most from what I've seen. I've seen Victors have much more success farming and then scaling into the late game and then being like raid bosses later in the game than I've seen Victors that are more active early kind of carry. So overall, that does seem to be like the better playstyle, especially if you're lower rank. I would say that that's going to be even better. As far as where Victor, he's definitely not S+ tier, in my opinion. I would say S tier at best. I think the biggest thing about Victor is that his 1v4, 1v3 potential, like basically 1vx potential, is really, really high. But at the end of the day, he does have a lot of counters, especially if you're not super farmed. So I'm putting him in A tier. In some situations, he will feel like S or even S+ tier. And I've definitely had games where I play against Victor and it feels like the Victors are just unkillable and then we lost the game. However, in this situation, I would say that, you know, some other issues happened. So with Victor, I think he's strong. He's kind of a potential man. He can pop off, but, you know, consistently, I'm not super thrilled when I have a Victor on my team, usually. Vindicta. Okay, I think Vindicta is actually like one of the most slept on characters right now. I think she's really good, and I think that a lot of people underestimate her power. Vindicta does like so much damage, and like every time I play against Vindicta, I'm like, oh my god, she's just shitting out damage. So I'm putting her in S tier just for her damage potential. Like, it's actually insane how much damage this hero can do, especially if you start stacking like snipes and stuff. Like, you just start shredding people. And like, obviously there are counterplay to Vindicta. I think that she's well designed because, like, you know, you can obviously, like, she is easy to kill if you get on top of her. Like, she's very squishy, but the damage output is like absurd. And I think that if you are better than the average players in the lobby, like let's say you're trying to climb and you're better than people, I think Vindicta is probably going to be a great hero to climb on because you're going to be able to roam so much and just kill everyone and just start doing like infinite amounts of damage. And if people don't know how to shut you down, you're just going to kill everyone. So at the end of the day, I would put Vindicta in S tier. I think that she's really good. And I would say that she's better than most A tier picks. The only A tier, but some A tier picks are also like really good. And like, there's also matchup specific things, right? For example, if you're playing Grey Talon into Vindicta, that's going to be a decent matchup. But Mina into Vindicta, I found is actually a really bad matchup because Vindicta actually just destroys Mina as far as damage output. So every time I try to go into Vindicta, she just kills me instantly. Okay, Viscous is S+ tier. This hero's still OP. They barely nerfed it. They barely nerfed Viscous. Cube is like disgusting. Cube's the best save in the game. Puddle Punch is one of the best movement abilities in the game. The ultimate is a get out of jail free card that stuns people. Puddle Punch, Splatter still does a ton of damage. This hero kind of has everything in my opinion. However, I will add a caveat, which is not the easiest hero to play. Definitely tricky to learn, especially. And in order for Viscous to be S+ tier, you probably have to be good at Viscous. If you're not good at Viscous, I would not just play Viscous just to be like a meta person. I think the easiest hero and the like broken heroes to play are going to be like McGinnis and Billy if you're just trying to abuse the meta. Like, these heroes are not that hard to learn and will be very, very strong. Same for Drifter maybe. But like Doorman, Pocket, and Viscous are definitely slightly trickier in order to get the full like S+ value out of them. Vyper, I think Vyper, honestly, I have not seen a single Vyper really do well. I had one Vyper that did really well and then completely fell off. So I'm going to put her in B tier. She doesn't feel that strong in this meta. She feels like a lot of the top characters just kind of handle her. I think the best thing about Vyper is Max Bola is like insane for mid boss. Like, Max Bola is actually crazy, but I just haven't seen Vipers do very well in ranked at all. So I'm putting her B tier. From what I've seen in my games, I just haven't seen her do well. Maybe she's better than she is, but look, at the end of the day, she is also a bit tricky to play. People don't play her much. So putting her in B tier, if you're good at Vyper, you could definitely, like, she's definitely definitely, you know, she's definitely better. Warden, I think Warden is just like good. I don't think he's like meta defining. I think you can play Warden, you'll be happy with it and you'll do fine. And that's it, right? Like Warden is very much like very standard, very tanky, does decent amount of damage, has decent utility to provide with Cage, and his ultimate is pretty good at team fighting. Like he's got really nothing super special about him. He's just kind of like decent at a lot of things. So I think like if you're playing Warden, you're probably fine right now, but you know, not like crazy. Wraith. Okay, I think Wraith is like S tier. I consider it S plus tier, but in my opinion, Wraith has enough counterplay to not be S plus tier, because if you're against like a lot of the top tier heroes, you can just get like one shots. However, the damage potential and the carry potential of Wraith, I think that if you're purely trying to climb, she's definitely one of the best heroes to do it with. And if I was ordering the tiers, which I'm not, I would definitely put her at the top of S tier, because if you get going with Wraith, you can absolutely carry a lobby, especially once you have like Ricochet and the full build. You can output so much damage, and the enemies have to know how to counter you. They have to coordinate to counter you, and they have to use a lot of crowd control to counter you. So it's not easy to counter, not as easy as some people make it sound. So she's extremely strong. I'm not putting her in S plus tier just because I do think that at a high level of play, she is not S plus tier, and this is, you know, the tier list from my perspective. Once again, this is not for the average player, although I'm trying to explain things enough so that the average player can understand and, you know, decide maybe some things will change. So if you're below, like if you're lower rank, she might be S plus tier, and she is one of the best heroes for solo queue for sure. Now Yamato, I think honestly from what I've seen from Yamato, I think that she's like strong. Yes, she has infinite grapples, but she hasn't felt like insane to me. Like in most games that I've seen Yamato, she's felt manageable. It hasn't felt like, wow, this game is, they just have Yamato just running the lobby. I haven't seen a lot of Yamatos run the lobby, really. I think if you're really good at her, you absolutely can. But I think she's a solid pick. I'm never upset to have a Yamato on my team, right? I think A tier is like heroes that I'm not upset to have on my team. And I think B and C tier are heroes that I'm more like, ooh, yeah, I don't know about having those on my team. So Yamato's just solid. The grapples are really, really good into specific matchups where you can chase people infinitely. And honestly, as far as like how annoying she is, she's S plus tier annoying. Like she's one of the most annoying heroes in the game with the infinite grapples. But, you know, overall, I think that she has a good amount of hybrid damage as well. She's a good like Hunter's Aura builder, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't really think that she's anything crazy. I think she's just good. You're never upset to have her, and you know she's good into specific matchups, and that's pretty much it. Order within the tiers? No, I don't order within tiers because I think it's kind of pointless to order within tiers, in my opinion. So these are just alphabetical. That's just how the website does it, and I don't really like ordering within tiers because it's like, okay, if you're within a tier, you should be comparable to the other heroes to an extent. So that's it for the tier list. I don't think we forgot anything. So the C tier heroes we already talked about. I'm pretty happy with this tier list. Now let me know what you disagree with most. What's the placement that you guys disagree with most? It's always funny. I'm not going to change anything. I'm keeping it as is, but I just want to know what you guys think is like my stupidest placement.